"You're not welcome here, haha, you're fired." The voice of the CEO's wife echoed through the quiet office. Then, the CEO himself, standing nearby, said with a snort, "That's right, haha, you're fired." I was fed up with the repeated condescending attitudes of the CEO and his wife towards me. There was no reason for them to treat me like that. However, they would come to regret their behavior later on. My name is John. I'm 25 years old. After graduating high school, I got a job at Sakaki Corporation, a factory making parts located near my parents' home. Sakaki Corporation is a small, family-owned company. It's within walking distance from my parents' house, and the pay isn't bad. That's why I decided to join this company. However, my mom was opposed to me joining Sakaki Corporation from the start. The reason is that the president of the company and my mom were classmates in elementary school and knew each other well. So, she knew the president's family well. "Are you really going to join Sakaki Corporation? It's not too late to change your mind." My mom kept advising me, trying to persuade me to give up on joining. However, I decided to join Sakaki Corporation, despite her opposition. I couldn't understand why she was so against me joining Sakaki Corporation. But soon after I started, the reason became clear. On my first day, I went to work excited. I was so excited about what my life as a working adult would be like. But at that moment, I had no idea this was the beginning of hell. As soon as I entered the factory, the president's wife was waiting. And she looked down on me. "New hires have to be in the factory 30 minutes before the work starts. Don't high school grads know that? It's common sense." "Well, no, I didn't realize that." "But did she have to mention I was a high school grad? That's harsh." "I'm so sorry, I'll be more careful from now on." I said this, bowing deeply to the president's wife. Then, I heard a man's voice behind me. I instinctively turned around. The man was tall and slender, with a face strikingly similar to the president's wife. "Hey, are you the lowly educated new guy, Haga?" I was at a loss for words. Sure, I only graduated high school, but there's no need to blatantly say I'm lowly educated. Then, without anyone asking, the president's wife introduced me to him, Matt. "This is my son, Matt. He's the factory manager. Unlike you, he went to college and is very smart." Apparently, Matt is 25 years old and joined the company after graduating from a private university. He's currently gaining experience as the factory manager, aiming to be the future president. Matt had a smug look on his face. And in a loud voice meant for me to hear, he said, "Having a high school grad in our factory, that's unfortunate." My chest was filled with anger. There was a reason I didn't go to college. Yet, being treated as lowly educated by Matt and the president's wife, who knew nothing about it, was intolerable. I was born as the eldest son of my family, between my father and mother. My father was very kind to me, often teaching me how to build model kits. I loved my father dearly. Years later, my long-awaited younger brother was born, and it was the happiest time of my life. But my father passed away from illness just as I had started elementary school. Because of that, my mother raised my baby brother and me all by herself. She worked tirelessly for us brothers, sparing no time for rest. However, we were always tight on money, to the point where there were months we couldn't afford to pay for school lunches. I couldn't possibly tell my mother, who struggled so much, that I wanted to go to college. I believe that if you have the will, you can study anytime, even without going to college. That's why I decided to start working right after high school. Well, it can't be helped, Matt can take good care of this high school grad. The president's wife referred to her son as Matt. Being addressed like this by his mother, at the age of 25, felt a bit weird to me. Reluctantly, Matt taught me the job. I took notes on each task as I learned them. Then, the president showed up. Secretly, I hoped that the president would be a good person who doesn't judge others by their educational background. But, my hopes would soon be dashed. The president was watching my work. You were a high school grad, right? Yes, that's correct. Considering nobody else wants a high school grad, you should be grateful I hired you. I looked at the president's face in disbelief. Unwanted by anyone, hired as a favor. What a harsh way to be spoken about. Indeed, this family is no good. Did my mom know this family was rotten, and that's why she opposed it? For the first time, I understood why my mom had been against it. After work, I was completely exhausted. When I was about to pack up and head home, the boss came up to me. Today, we're thinking of throwing you a welcome party. You have to attend. Indeed. Being my first day on the job, I was completely worn out. However, given the situation, I decided to join. The welcome party was set to take place at a nearby tavern. With heavy steps, I walked to the tavern. Then, a girl around 20 years old called out to me from behind. You're the new employee, John, right? I'm Amy, last year's new recruit. Amy was a girl with a cute smile and a friendly demeanor. Yes, my name is John. Nice to meet you. Likewise, I'm looking forward to working together. I felt like I would be sucked into Amy's beaming smile. That's how wonderful Amy's smile was. Before I knew it, while I was talking with Amy, we had arrived at the tavern. We entered the tavern. At the tavern, the boss's family was already there, drinking and having a good time. Then, Matt, who was drinking beer, beckoned to Amy, saying, Amy, come sit over here. Amy seemed a bit reluctant. When I quietly suggested to Amy, let's sit together at the end, she smiled brightly. However, as we sat at the end, Matt started raising his voice. Everyone, I'm going to introduce this year's new employee. Come on, stand up. Matt instructed me to stand up. I stood up and looked at everyone's faces. All the employees were looking at me with interest. Then, Matt introduced me with shocking words the next moment. This guy's name is John. He's the new hire with just a high school diploma and no skills. I think he's really useless because he's just a high school grad. But don't worry, I'll cover for him. If anything happens, we'll just fire him, so he might not work here that long. LOL. It was the most humiliating introduction I had ever received in my life. No one had ever called me unskilled because I only had a high school diploma, and I had never thought of myself that way. All I could do was clench my fists and hold back my anger. And gradually, my anger turned into sadness. Seeing this, Amy looked into my face and said in a low voice, What's wrong with being a high school graduate? I can't believe someone would say that, showing her anger. Then, Matt, in a good mood from drinking, came over. Hey, I'm the one who sits next to Amy. Move over, high school grad. Matt put his arm around Amy, who was trying to resist. Amy is going to be my wife in the future. You, a mere high school grad, shouldn't be talking to her so casually. Matt spoke with a sense of pride, but Amy's face wasn't smiling at all. In fact, she looked puzzled. It was clear that Matt was interested in Amy, but the feeling was not mutual. That much was obvious. However, who Matt liked was of no importance to me. Exhausted and worn out, I drank a soft drink before starting to prepare to leave. I have work tomorrow, so I need to get to bed early. That's all I could think about. When I got up to leave, Amy also began to hurriedly prepare to go home. John, I'll go home with you. Amy said that and followed me. Just as we were about to open the tavern door, Matt shouted loudly. Where do you think you're taking Amy, you high school dropout with no skills? Amy froze in shock. It's just a coincidence that we're leaving at the same time. When I said that, Matt clicked his tongue. We finally managed to leave the tavern. Both Amy and I had tired expressions. The plant manager keeps insisting on going out on a date. I've told him I'm not interested at all. I see, he does seem persistent, but I think it's better to say no if you don't like something, you know. But if I say something wrong and get fired, I won't be able to support my family. Amy started to share her personal story. She was born to a single mother and lived in a family of 4, including her mother, Amy, her little sister, and brother. Amy's mother is frail and unable to work. So, Amy works in her stead to support the family. Despite being around my age, she's so responsible. I need to be more like Amy. Thanks to Amy, I was able to pull myself together. Amy's home was not too far from my parents' house. We talked about work as we made our way home. When I arrived home, my mom was up waiting for me. My mom was so worried about how my job went that she couldn't sleep. I told her everything that happened today and what was said, without holding anything back. Then, my mom frowned. That family really is strange. I can't forgive them for calling you incompetent though. And then, she told me about the past. When she was in elementary school, the president of Sakaki Corporation was her classmate. Despite everyone else walking to school in groups, the president was picked up and dropped off in a luxury car by his parents. And apparently, his parents would show up at the slightest issue. For instance, during fights, his parents would appear and punish the other party. The president, having been spoiled, always seemed to look down on people. Therefore, it's likely that Matt's tendency to look down on others comes from his parents' influence. I oddly found myself understanding this. My mom said I could quit my job anytime, but I felt that if I quit now, I would definitely regret it. So, I decided to stick it out, determined to do whatever it takes. The next day, when I showed up at work, Matt was in a particularly bad mood. Probably because I went home with Amy yesterday, and he didn't like it. Then, the president, noticing this, glared at me. "John, didn't you learn in school not to take what's not yours? LOL. This is why I dislike high school grads." The president's wife snickered through her nose. I couldn't believe my ears. I have no recollection of taking Amy away from Matt. Moreover, Amy is not Matt's property to begin with. What are these people talking about? I do intend to do my best at this job, but can I really manage? I suddenly felt very anxious. The condescending remarks and terrible attitudes from the president's family continued daily. And so, the days went by, and 5 years passed. I'm still working at this company. The president's family is still terrible to me, but I've managed to develop the ability to ignore it. Even when the president's family said unpleasant things, I learned to let it go in 1 year and out the other, which made my job easier. And in these 5 years, a few new employees, who are my juniors, have joined the company. 2 of them, like me, are high school graduates. Because of that, the president's family started looking down not just on me, but on them too. High school grads are just a bunch of incompetents. The president's harsh words were hurting the new employees. I wanted to protect the high school graduate newcomers at all costs. But the 2 of them, who couldn't stand it anymore, both ended up leaving one after the other. It's no wonder they ended up leaving. The president's family kept making snide remarks just because they were high school graduates. And yet, they constantly complained about not having enough employees, as if it were their catchphrase. Really, whose fault is it that we're short on people? Couldn't they offer a few more kind words to the new employees? I was feeling frustrated. Then, one day, the president came to the factory in a flurry. He was talking to the person in charge of designing parts. The person looked troubled and shook their head. However, the president started raising his voice. "If this isn't finished, all corporation says they can't continue doing business with us. This company is finished, get it done by the end of this week. Otherwise, we'll lose to our rival, Brown Industries. All corporation accounts for a large portion of Sakaki Corporation's profits. It seems we've become obligated to develop a new part at the request of all corporation. If the development doesn't go well, all corporation will start doing significant business with our rival, Brown Industries. If that happens, our company is done for." Seeing the president clearly in a panic, I felt a sense of crisis. I approached a person in charge of part design. I had the design drawings for the part design in my hand. The person in charge looked troubled. finishing this by the end of the week is just too unreasonable." They sighed. I leaned in to look at the design drawings and then at the person in charge. "Is this how the design is supposed to be? Can I try making this part?" I asked the person in charge, a bit excited. Then, the person in charge looked at me with a surprised face. Their face said it all. "There's no way a high school graduate like me could make this part. I've always been good at this kind of work. But this isn't a toy, you know." "I understand, just let me try, there's no harm in trying." It seemed like the person in charge was won over by my enthusiasm. They handed me the design drawings for the part. "The deadline is until the time we head back from now." I deeply bowed in response to the supervisor's words. Amy, who was working nearby, called out to me. "John, can you really do it?" Amy asked me with a curious tone. I smiled at her and said, "Don't worry, just watch me." Still, Amy looked worried as she watched me. I was looking at the blueprints and making parts with improvements. Halfway through, Matt also started watching my work. Next to him was the CEO. "There's no way a high school grad can make these parts, right?" Indeed. Despite saying so, both of them were watching my work. I was connecting small parts together and shaving them down as I worked. "It's finished." And several hours later, I had completed the part. It was a splendid piece of work. The supervisor kept lifting and examining the finished part. "John, this is fantastic. To be able to complete this in just a few hours is amazing." Overwhelmed with joy, the supervisor shook my hand. Even the usually sarcastic CEO was looking at me with a broad smile this time. "You're quite something for a high school grad. Keep up the good work like this." Holding the freshly made part, the CEO hurried out of the factory. I felt proud of myself. No matter how difficult something may be, by taking on the challenge, sometimes you can see the light. I fought deeply. Once the CEO had left the factory, Amy gave a small clap from the corner of the factory and smiled at me. Amy has always been on my side. Being able to endure whatever the CEO's family says to me at work is also thanks to Amy's support from the shadows. I want to continue being good work colleagues with Amy. I was thinking about this while working. From this day on, I started to be involved in the development and designing of new parts. The work now is far more enjoyable than before. No matter what the CEO's family says, I find fulfillment in my work and spend my days feeling motivated. "John, you've been looking really lively lately." Amy talked to me with a full smile. Whenever I see Amy smile like this, for some reason, my heart skips a beat. However, that day turned out to be the last day I could work with Amy in the factory. The next day, when I entered the workplace, Amy was nowhere to be seen. Maybe she caught a cold. I thought it was strange. But I was sure she would come to work the next day, so I naively thought. But Amy didn't come to the company the next day, nor the day after that. Worried, I sent Amy a message during my break. "Are you not coming to work because you're feeling unwell?" While I was eating my lunch, I got a reply from Amy. "I've been fired from the company." Reading Amy's message, I inadvertently let out a loud voice. The surrounding employees were surprised by my voice. "Amy fired. What in the world happened?" I immediately replied to Amy. "You're fired. What happened?" I could no longer swallow my lunch. As I put the lid on my lunchbox and started to clean up, I received another reply from Amy. Actually, the information Amy shared was shocking. I couldn't sit still any longer and ran to where Matt was. "Factory manager, I need to talk to you." Matt was having an extravagant sushi delivery with the CEO and his wife. The CEO and his wife looked at me with obvious disdain. Though, how unpleasant, to be interrupted during a meal. High school grads really lack manners. "What the heck are you talking about?" Matt also raised his voice in anger. I stood my ground and loudly said, "Please revoke Amy's termination." Matt looked puzzled. "Why should I have to listen to something like that from you? It's none of your business." A vital work colleague has been fired. I cannot stay silent. Could you please reconsider the termination? The CEO laughed through his nose at my earnest gaze. Why are you so desperate? Could it be that you and Amy are in that kind of relationship? No, I'm just upset that a vital work colleague was unjustly fired. My voice was even louder than before. In fact, Amy was fired because she had turned down a marriage proposal from Matt. They were never in a relationship in the first place, so there was no way Amy could accept such a proposal. Amy had declined in the most non-offensive way possible, but for the prideful Matt, being turned down was unacceptable. Shortly after, Amy was fired from the company. This is wrongful termination. If Amy is fired from the company, what will happen to the family she supports? Thinking about Amy, I couldn't help but raise my voice. Whether to accept or reject a marriage proposal should be personal choice. To fire someone just because they declined is truly wrong. Isn't this an abuse of power? My words made Matt's face turn red. Then, the CEO's wife said, "Stop blaming Matt, you're not needed here. Haha, you're fired too." I had predicted this would happen before I even made my appeal for Amy. However, to be dismissed without even being listened to properly, there's a limit to looking down on someone. And the CEO, joining in with his wife, continued the conversation. "That's right, haha, you're fired." Matt was laughing nearby. I was frustrated. However, the thought of finally being free from the CEO's family felt refreshing. "See ya, don't ever come back, haha." With Matt's words as the signal, I left the company without saying anything. And then I headed straight to Amy's house. I told Amy about what had happened at the company today. Then Amy looked remorseful. "You didn't have to say that for someone like me. If you hadn't, you wouldn't have been fired," Amy said, looking into my face. However, I smiled and said, "Actually, there's been a company that's been wanting me to work for them for a while now. It's the job I've always wanted to do, so I'm thinking of taking on the challenge." And with that, Amy's face lit up with relief. Months passed. I've gotten used to the new company, and am enjoying my work more than when I was at Sakaki Corporation. There's not a single person who looks down on me because I'm a high school graduate. The president is kind to me, a world of difference from the company I used to work for. And today is an important day. I was psyched up. "John, you're nervous, aren't you? It's okay because I'm with you," Amy said, handing me a can of coffee. I accepted the can of coffee. Yes, when I was transferring to the current company, I asked the president if Amy could transfer with me. Surprisingly, the president warmly welcomed the both of us. Since then, Amy and I have often worked together as a pair. Today, we were supposed to go somewhere. That place is, excuse us. As Amy and I entered the company, we saw the president's wife and Matt chatting over coffee. Brown Industries has recently increased its sales by an extraordinary amount. We need to step up our game, or we'll be left behind. The two noticed our presence, stopped their conversation, and looked at us. "What, you've come back to this company? Unfortunately, you're no longer needed." "Really, please leave, and quickly." The two tried to drive Amy and I out. That's when I handed a business card to Matt. The business card read, "John, Development Director at Brown Industries." Matt was shocked and slumped into the sofa. Seeing this, the president's wife also looked at my business card, seemingly unable to close her mouth in surprise. Then the president arrived. He saw my business card. How come you are with our rival company, Brown Industries?" "Yes, after being fired from Sakaki Corporation, I transferred to Brown Industries, a company that had been inviting me to join them for some time. The part I designed and produced caught the eye of Brown Industries president, Brown. Brown welcomed me as the development director. I am nothing but grateful to Brown for letting me work the way I want to every day. President Brown warmly welcomed me as the development director after I was fired." The president snorted at my words. "There are all sorts of people, aren't there? Ignoring the president's comment, I continued speaking. So today, I came to discuss something important. From now on, all parts used by Law Corporation will be handled by our company, so I came to introduce myself. The president and Matt looked at us as if they couldn't believe it. There's no way that's true. What nonsense are you talking about? Just because we fired you, you think you're getting revenge. This isn't revenge at all. Come up with a more believable lie. I sighed and said, I'm not lying, so please feel free to call All Corporation and check. The president immediately began to make the call. Thank you for always your support. About the deal. What? Why is that? Understood. The president hung up the phone, looking stunned. Dad, what happened? These people are lying, right? The two pressed the president for answers. Then, weakly, the president said, what they're saying is true. From now on, all parts will be ordered from Brown Industries. Our company is finished. Why did they suddenly decide to order exclusively from Brown Industries? Matt, not satisfied with the explanation, was pressing the president for answers. Looking down, the CEO said, it seems the parts from Brown Industries are closer to what All Corporation needs. The CEO's wife and Matt were disheartened. Then, the CEO clung to me. Who's developing and designing the parts at Brown Industries? Amy looked at my face and nodded. The person you've been calling incompetent and uneducated, John, is the one designing everything. Amy loudly declared. The CEO's eyes widened as he looked at me. I involuntarily averted my eyes from the CEO. And then, I signaled to Amy. Well, we've said what we needed to say, so we'll be taking our leave. I left the company with Amy. Then, the CEO desperately chased after us. I was startled. It was because the CEO had such an intense expression. Wait, please, why did you quit? I'll raise your salary, just come back immediately. The CEO grabbed my arm and wouldn't let go. The CEO's wife, who had chased after us, looked at my face and said, after all, John, you are a vital asset our company needs. We'll double your salary. Despite having looked down on me for my lack of education, this is their tune, now that they see I can benefit the company. I tried to remain calm, even though I was furious. And sure, but my annual salary is $1 million, you know. What? The CEO was so surprised by my words that he sat down right there. Surely, you can't be serious about $1 million. It's true, John has been developing parts for various companies, not just for All Corporation, at Brown Industries. Thanks to that, Brown Industries' profits have been skyrocketing. Matt and the CEO's wife fell silent. They both knew that Brown Industries had been doing well recently. That's probably why they were convinced by Amy's story. But still, the CEO persisted in appealing to me. Please, would you consider coming back to my company once more? Amy is welcome to join as well, and I'll make sure you're both treated as executives. Amy and I sighed. After firing John and I, you had the nerve to say that. It's too late to change your attitude now. We don't want to work under cold-hearted people like you. With that, we'll be leaving. The CEO's family was stunned by Amy's words. Then Amy pulled on my arm, and we left Sakaki Corporation. From inside, we could hear what sounded like the CEO's cries echoing. But neither Amy or I ever looked back again. That felt refreshing. Now, those people won't be showing their faces around anymore. I nodded slightly at Amy's words. However, there was one thing that didn't sit right with me. It was about the employees left behind at Sakaki Corporation. Whether the CEO's family went to hell was none of my business, but I did want to rescue the innocent employees. So, I negotiated with Brown to see if Brown Industries could take in all the employees from Sakaki Corporation. Surprisingly, Brown readily accepted my proposal. Shortly thereafter, Sakaki Corporation went bankrupt. As promised, Brown Industries took in all the employees who had worked at Sakaki Corporation. John, thank you. Now, I can take care of my family. The employees thanked me with tears in their eyes. I was really glad I could be of help to everyone. I felt truly relieved. 2 years passed. As for what happened to the CEO's family, Matt attempted to start a new company using the CEO's hidden assets, but failed to make it work, ending up with increasing debts, and eventually, that company too went bankrupt. What remained was a significant amount of debt. Matt is now working 3 part-time jobs from early morning until late at night to pay off the debts. Meanwhile, both the CEO and his wife have also started working part-time jobs to help pay off Matt's debts. Their struggles with the unfamiliar life of part-time work do look somewhat pitiable. But it's probably karma. I hope they learn to cherish those around them and lead a better life from now on. And as for me, about the next project, I'd like to entrust it to you again, if that's okay. Yes, of course, I'll do my best. Work is going smoothly, and I have even more responsibilities than before. Along with that, my salary has increased. The trust I get from President Brown is also stronger. Sometimes I wonder if it's really okay to enjoy my work this much because it's so fun. Can you take care of Anne today? I think I'll have to work overtime, sorry. There's some hamburger steak I made in the fridge, so please eat that. Okay, good luck with the overtime. I got ready to go home and stopped by the daycare to pick up my daughter, Anne. Yes, Amy and I have been married for 2 years now. When we decided to get married, both of our mothers cried tears of joy. At that moment, Amy and I were delighted to have been able to make our parents so happy. Currently, Amy's mother, who is frail, is also living with us. And between us, we have a 1.5-year-old daughter, Anne. Amy, while working, also doesn't neglect household duties for me and Anne. I'm truly grateful to Amy. Anne, spotting me, ran over with a smile. Daddy. I picked Anne up. Hamburger steak for dinner tonight. I'm looking forward to Amy's hamburger steak, it's the best in the world. Thinking such farts, I started my way home. I plan to continue cherishing my family and dedicating myself to work.